New Orleans Saints, Tampa Bay Buccaneers preview. This is Pro Football Focus. All right, interesting game. A lot going on in the game. And by that, of course, I mean Spencer Rattler starting for the New Orleans Saints. But we're going to talk about the entire game here and try and preview it with the Pro Football Focus squad. See what they see and see what I see. Let's go ahead and react.
We have Buccaneers at Saints, and with Marshon Lattimore being healthy, this is essentially the 7th Rocky movie, as Marshon Lattimore and Mike Evans will be on the field at the same time, which is always must-watch TV.
Yeah. Rocky 4 was the best Rocky. Rocky 3, good. Second best Rocky. Rocky 2, then Rocky 1. 5 and the other Rockies are absolutely horrific.
Other than that matchup, Carmen, what do you have as the matchup that matters here?
Yeah, I wanted to say Marshon Lattimore and Mike Evans, but
the matchup that matters, well, look, this video could be 45 seconds long. It all depends on how Spencer Rattler performs. I mean, we have a rookie quarterback playing. You never know how rookie quarterbacks can play. You never know what the offense is going to look like. You never know the variables that go along with that, especially on short rest. There's a lot of moving pieces here. The Buccaneers have been practicing at Ullman, Tulane's football facility, this entire week because of the hurricane. So they've been in New Orleans since Tuesday. Rattler gets the start. What does that do to the offense? What does that shrink the playbook? Does that pseudo expand the playbook? Because now there's a lot of rollouts. Now there's a lot of moving the pocket around. Does he find, even down to who he's looking for? You know, certain quarterbacks look for certain receivers. He could be totally different. Whereas he's looking at Olave 80% of the time versus Shaheed, or, you know, like there's so many variables. That is the question. So then if we trickle down, okay, now you got Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles versus rookie quarterbacks. Look what he did to Jaden Daniels. All right, now you could also argue, well, he lost to Bo Nix. Hey, true. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, go take a look at it, have gotten healthy. So the Bucs have been injured this season. Vita Vea was out for a little bit there, I believe, or at least banged up for a little bit there. Cansey has been out, but now he's a full participant. Antoine Winfield has been out. Now he's limited. You would assume he's going to play. So the fact that they are getting some people back, the fact that, you know, even the players who were back but were banged up are getting healthier, that's not great for the Saints, right? It's not great for the Saints that Tampa's slowly but surely getting healthy, especially on that defensive front. The Saints last week against the Chiefs, the big problem was Chris Jones. I'm not saying that Tampa's front is the same as Kansas City's front, but that is the problem, right? The problem is, okay, well, what's this Tampa Bay defense going to look like then? How are we going to do better dealing with that interior defensive line?
It's like it's just the best when teams and players in particular have an actual rivalry. Like these guys actually don't like each other, and that is so rare in today's NFL. Mm-hmm. Usually, I mean, and it makes sense with the amount of movement that these guys have between teams. It doesn't really make sense to actually hate anybody. You're all in the NFL brotherhood, but that is.
So real quick, prop type look. We've talked about how the Saints are kind of a zigzag defense where if one week they give up a ton of yards to a tight end, the next week they probably will shut down the tight end. If one week they give a lot of yards up to the quarterback, they'll probably shut down the quarterback the next week. They kind of emphasize whatever they struggled the week previously. If we're doing that logic, we would say, okay, the Saints are probably going to try and stop the tight end because Travis Kelce had so much success. The Saints are probably going to try and contain Baker Mayfield because Patrick Mahomes was so lethal with his legs. If you continue to trickle that down and say, okay, well, then Mike Evans and Marshon Lattimore will have their battle, that leads me to wanting to play over on Chris Godwin props. So if an early look would be Chris Godwin receptions, Chris Godwin receiving yards.
It's not the case with Marshon Lattimore and Mike Evans. Mike really hates Marshon. And
it is, again, I think a lot of people agree with you. They take it a little too far per the NFL with rules and sportsmanship. All right, maybe a little bit, but the juice is what we love, right? Like that added mentality of just like, I don't like this dude. And sometimes it's going to go a little bit after the whistle, a little bit before the whistle. And that's the understood. That's the understood matchup that matters, is who might throw the first haymaker or who might not, right? To get a 15-yard penalty here and there. Right. So we'll see if we have anything there. I'm curious as to how much Marshawn lines up with Mike Evans, because the secondary for the New Orleans Saints, this isn't my matchup that matters. I'm just kind of going off the top of my head here. But I think that, just all of these DBs, I'll get into it a little bit more, but what's your matchup that matters here?
My actual matchup that matters is the Bucs defensive line against the Saints O-line.
Yes.
Considering that the Bucs defensive line is getting more healthy, you have Kalijah Kancey back at practice. And you have, on the other side, you have the Saints really lacking in health as far as their offensive line goes. They don't have Eric McCoy, and Cesar Ruiz and Lucas Patrick both dealing with injuries. What's really interesting to me is, so Eric McCoy, this will be their second game without him, but they had the fourth highest EPA per play in pass blocking weeks 1.
Now, something that always I think about with this is that, the coaches know this, right? Like, this isn't just proprietary information only to PFF or to my channel. The coaches know, okay, we are 32nd in pass blocking. We are struggling. We are giving up the most pressures allowed. We have a rookie quarterback. So it's up to the coaches, Clint Kubiak. It's up to Clint Kubiak to make sure this does not play a factor. And that's why I was so frustrated after the Chiefs game, because what do you think is going to happen? Like, Chris Jones is on the field. Your weak point is the interior offensive line. Their strong point is the interior defensive line. So after the game, when Chris Jones is the factor, it's like, how is that possible? How is it possible that the main thing is going to beat you, how does that actually beat you? Like, if you're playing the Golden State Warriors in a couple years ago, you can't go into that game and let Steph Curry beat you. You have to say, if Klay Thompson does it, if Draymond does it, whatever, but I'm not letting Steph Curry do it, because I know that's the big crux of this issue. So this is true. My God, if I'm sitting there watching Vita Vea or whoever wreak havoc on the interior offensive line or defensive line, and the Saints are just chugging away, pounding it up the middle, getting sacked, I'm gonna lose my mind.
3 with Eric McCoy. After Eric McCoy went down, the Saints dropped to 20th in EPA per play, pass blocking wise. So you see that they're in the interior.
Sidebar about the rankings, because my DMs have been out of control. It's unbelievable. Let me just say this. It's unreal how the first 2 weeks of the season, Saints are fully healthy, right? Like, really, really step back and think about this, ladies and gentlemen. First 2 weeks of the season, Saints are completely healthy. Saints are flying. Look great. We're showing the numbers. We're showing the rankings. We're showing whatever. Everyone is saying these numbers don't matter. These numbers do not matter at all. Don't trust these numbers. These numbers are absolutely jokes. Now the Saints are on to their 5th center, their 3rd left guard, their 4th right guard, a backup quarterback. Running backs are injured. And now people are sending me, they're sending me the current rankings. And they're like, see, these are the rankings that really matter. It's like, well, you honestly would think that these are the rankings that matter the least. This is with this is like with 5th string, 6th string players. Why are you weighing these numbers over the numbers when we have a full roster? It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. You got to kind of like blend it all together. You can't just pick 2 weeks to look at here or 2 weeks to look at there, or one game to look at here or one game to look at there. It would be like after the Tampa Bay game being like, oh, wow, we are really dropping and passing down the field. And it's like, you don't think a quarterback change affects that at all? So be careful, guys. Be careful out there.
O-line is just really, really struggling here. 29.0 blocking grade in week 5, which ranked dead last. 24.0 pass blocking grade, also dead last. And they were 1st in pressures allowed.
This is a good example, right? Like 29.0 blocking grade in week 5 is 32nd. I would be interested to see every single team that the Chiefs played where they ranked for that week, because this would have a direct correlation to how good of a defensive line you played, right? Like if you play the Steelers, like I would wager that the bottom 5 every single week this year has been some combination of whoever played the Chiefs, whoever played the Steelers, like, because those are the teams that are generating the most pressure. Like it makes total sense. Like, and that's why I'm trying to say, like, if you pick out 1 week of data, like we obviously would have, like, it's obviously a horrible matchup for blocking, so it makes sense it would be 32nd.
So this is all something that the Bucs can.
Like the Falcons played the Chiefs and the Steelers. Both games were wrecked by the defensive lines. I would assume the Falcons were 32nd for those 2 weeks.
Take advantage of, given the fact that they are now healthy and they have a couple of monsters on the interior of their defensive line, not only in Kalijah Kancey, but Vita Vea. We've seen Logan Hall even come on a lot for that interior and getting pressure, being a little bit of a menace on that. So it's helping out the guys on the outside for this Bucs defense, and that front in general is just really hard to contend with, and that is the task is going to be up to the Saints interior offensive line, which is struggling so badly in the last couple of weeks of the season, where Eric McCoy has gone down.
Yeah, I mean, Kancey's the plus factor for me, right? I mean, the fact that he is back and what he could be as a pass rusher for this team is huge, because just in week 5, now I understand, like, Chiefs have a good defensive line. Steve Spagnuolo is a great defensive coordinator when it comes to dialing up pressure and making life hell for offensive linemen. And, they've got a guy named Chris Jones who's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I understand all that. But even with that being the case, the interior offensive line, whatever combination of guards and centers that they had out there in week 5 against the Chiefs, Saints interior 3, 29.0 blocking grade as a team, last in the NFL that week. 24.0 pass blocking grade, last in the NFL that week. And 13 pressures allowed, first in the NFL that week. Meaning first, meaning once again last. So with Kalijah Kancey coming back, Vita Vea obviously in the middle, that's a nightmare. It's a nightmare for the New Orleans Saints, who are now starting Spencer Rattler as well. That's Rattler's kind of a plus factor in his own right, just because how.
I mean, look, again, the Sudoku puzzle is simple. We are going to have to utilize screens. We are going to have to utilize moving Rattler out of the pocket. We're going to have to utilize play action rollouts. We're going to have to utilize one read type throws. We're going to have to utilize all of that all game. That's the plan. That's how you neutralize this. We can't have Spencer Rattler just dropping back, sitting in a pocket that's not going to be there.
He can deal with that interior pressure is going to mean a lot, because, as they say, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And if you are a defensive tackle and you could just run straight at the football, you're going to get there first. And especially if you win clean, like Kancey's been able to do when he has been healthy at the NFL level. So to me, that's a big time plus factor. Yeah, my matchup that matters, it wasn't necessarily Mike Evans versus Marshawn Lattimore, but it is the bigger picture of the Buccaneers wide receivers versus the Saints defensive back, because it's not always a strength on strength with this group, even for as long as Chris Godwin and Mike Evans have been a duo, even for as long as, guys like Tyrann Mathieu and Marshawn Lattimore have been in this defense. Secondary coverage, defense overall, it's very up and down. But going into this game, the secondary group of the New Orleans Saints is a big-time strength of their team.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just like strength on strength, balances it out. It is what it is. Like, we take a look at DVOA. This is total team DVOA. So offensive DVOA, the Bucs are 13, Saints are 11. Now, again, you have to factor in Rattler over Carr. So some of these are kind of like, how true are these? The Saints defense, 8th. Tampa's defense is 18th. So Tampa's defense has been a little worse. Now, let's take a look at where they are struggling here and where the Saints have been good. So if we look at pass defense, Saints are 8th in pass defense. The Bucs are 20th. Okay, so that's kind of a weak point for them. Rush defense, Tampa Bay is 8. The Saints are 12. So there you go. And then if you look at offensive DVOA, and you kind of, like, the way you would do that is then look, is there a huge mismatch? Saints are 12 in the pass. They are 10th, and I'm not really like, if you have a team, like how you would want to do this is if you have the Ravens playing the Bucs, you would assume, okay, number 1 ranked rushing D versus the whatever it was 18th ranked rushing defense. That's a mismatch. But yeah, anytime you're like 4 or 5 numbers away, I don't think it's really that big of a deal. And then of course the Bucs are 10th passing and 24th rushing. So the Bucs are not strong running the ball. They're going to have to try and I mean they're going to have to try and get at us throwing. They're going to have to get at us throwing, and the Saints are well equipped to stop that. So could be, as much as we're talking about the Saints offense with Rattler, like the Buccaneers could have trouble moving the ball as well.
And what we have seen from the Bucs passing attack, so are their wide receivers as well. When you look at Chris Godwin, he has the 3rd highest PFF receiving grade at an 86.9. He's got 25 catches, gaining a first down. That's 2nd in the NFL. He's got 9 catches of 15 yards or more. Mike Evans, he's tied for first in receiving touchdowns with Jamar Chase with 5. He's got 4.
One of my worst gambling beats of all time. A couple years ago, Tom Brady was still in the Bucs. Brady was throwing to Godwin like 15, 16 times a game. Godwin was his over receptions was 6.5. Hammered the over. We identified it. We got ahead of the trend. Huge bet on it. Godwin has 5 catches on the first drive. Okay, his 6th catch. No. He has 6 catches on the first drive. He goes to make his 7th catch in the first quarter to bust the over. Incomplete pass because Godwin drops it because he tears his ACL and he's out for the game. Lands on 6 and the under hits. He's out for the rest of the season. Horrific beat.
Red zone TDs, which is first. And so it's all working perfectly for how the Bucs want to use their wide receivers. And it's also working perfectly, it feels like, with how the Saints want to be with their aggressive defensive backs, particularly their corners. So not only do these guys not like each other, they're both really good right now. They're both full confidence. It's not like, we're reeling one way or the other. They're both of these groups are going into this game thinking we're going to be the reason why our teams win. And I think
how we were talking about with the zigzag, I guarantee you, because we saw a lot of zone against the Chiefs, I guarantee you the Saints play like 99.9% man in this game.
That's what's going to make for a very, very fun matchup that matters with strength on strength there. But who's your plus factor in this one before we move on?
Spencer Rattler.
Well, speaking of guys that are returning for the Buccaneers, could be Antoine Winfield Jr., he returned to practice this week. He's practicing a limited capacity, but if I know anything about Antoine, Tweez, he is going to try to get into this game come hell or high water. The Bucs have everything to play for, too, with everything going on back home. Their families and their dogs, their pets, everybody was evacuated to New Orleans. The team set up hotel rooms in Orlando for people that were staying behind. This has been just kind of a really tumultuous week for the Bucs, and they know how to harness it. And that's not just Antoine, but that's the whole team. I do think that's going to provide just a ton of juice, though, for this Buccaneers defense, which they've allowed 6.4 yards per play when they're using in their base personnel, which is 4 defensive backs. And in order to kind of combat that, you're going to need one of those 4 defensive backs to be Antoine Winfield Jr. That's the second most among the 29 defenses to use base personnel on at least 10% of their plays, which the Bucs do stay in their base quite a bit. So that's just kind of an opportunity here for Antoine to really make a difference. And it's why he would make such a difference if he returns back to this lineup, because when he is healthy, when he is back, he is one of the best, if not the best safeties in this league. And he's going to have all of the juice in the world coming back. And I think it's just going to do wonders for this defense.
Yeah. And the rookie quarterback factor as well. I'm excited to see Spencer Rattler. I really am. But, if Antoine Winfield Jr. is back there, it makes it all the more difficult. You'll second guess things. You'll be a little bit more hesitant. Can I throw the ball deep down the field? Now, they got good ones, right? Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed. Those are great guys to rely on and give them a chance deep down the field. But there's a difference when Winfield Jr. is back there and when he is not. So I think that's an excellent call up by you. I think Cansey's getting a lot of the publicity of him coming back. But if Winfield Jr. can come back as well.
Yeah, no doubt about that. What's going on here? It's going to be an interesting game. I can't wait to watch it. I mean, these are some icy stares that I'm getting from these two hombres. I'm not exactly sure what's going on here. I got a lot of questions. Quite honestly, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable. But what we need to see here is just how the Saints are going to plan around that defensive line. That's the deal. They're going to play how they're going to plan around the front, Vita Vea and Clancy. If it's a repeat of the Chiefs where it's just, hey, fingers crossed, hope it works out, probably won't be sweet. Probably won't be awesome. I can't wait. I can't wait for the game. Can't wait for Sunday. I'll be in the Dome. It'll be. I mean, I hope it's a movie. I hope it is Spencer Rattler leads a 2-minute drive to win it, and then I hope all next week we're talking about how Spencer Rattler is a Hall of Fame quarterback. So we'll see. Get in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.